Some fresh faces have hit the pages. Here are the newest Marvel superheroes you've never seen before. So, Hydra is once again ruining lives because it's what they do best. This time, they kidnapped a bunch of regular people and experimented on them, giving them superpowers. The person is brainwashed to believe that they are linked to a superhero that shares similar powers. For example, for today's first point, we have Moon Squire. He believes that he is attached kind of to Moon Knight. His Hydra backstory is that he acquired his powers / contacted his Egyptian patron after finding some forbidden ancient texts while on an internet deep dive. It appears that Moon Squire has similar, if not the same, powers as Moon Knight, with a focus on his ability to darken any space he's in, literally absorbing the light to create his weapons. He's not the only person this situation has happened to. There were quite a few of them. Some of the other experiments have found each other and created a team together called the Assembly, now New Champions. Hydra created all these little heroes so they would cover the earth and subtly influence the world to view Hydra favorably. The New Champions have discovered their evil plan and made it their mission to find the new heroes around the world and bring them to the good side. Next up is Calico, a big win for the Horse Girls. Introduced in Uncanny X-Men in August, she is literally a girl with a magical horse. Together they are Calico and Ember. Since Calico is very new, there isn't much to go on when it comes to how much power she wields. However, she has given readers a taste, and so far she is awesome. Through a powerful mind link with her horse, she can transform them into various horse forms. All we've really seen so far is kind of like a winged flaming horse. Calico can either stay as she is and just look really cool riding on the back of a flaming Pegasus, or she can give herself a flaming suit of armor and a sword and look even cooler. To put it simply, I want to be her. Calico's backstory is tough, like many young mutants is. Born Becca Simon Panetch, she grew up with a mother that kind of made her like a Rapunzel character. She couldn't access any media other than books, only animals were her friends, and she was once locked in a cupboard for 4 days, so you kind of understand the vibe there. When her house burned down, she got out of there and has been on the run ever since, eventually finding a family in a scrappy group of teens that call themselves the Outliers. My favorite recent-ish addition to the Marvel Spider universe is Spinstress or Spinderella. She is Princess Petra of Earth 423, and I have never ever wanted to be a character so bad. She is a Disney princess version of Peter Parker. She sings, she swings, and she even has her own MJ, Mary James Watson. He's a singing bard. Like Cinderella, she is banned from going to the big ball, but her fairy godmother swooped in to save the day. She gave Petra the prettiest dress I've ever seen and spider powers and sent her on her way. Now she is a crime-fighting princess living in a fairy tale land, and isn't that just the dream? Princess Petra did debut in 2022, so she's a bit older than some of the other people on this list, but no less cool. Phantasma debuted this month in Ghost Rider Robbie Ray's special, and she is awesome. She was only there for a little bit, but that's really all she needed. Roller derby skater by trade and Ghost Rider when she is put in high-stress situations, Isabella Alvarez might not have complete control over when she uses her powers, but she does have a good handle on them in the midst of battle. In the story, Isabella was supposed to be getting ready for a roller derby match, but she had a panic attack that caused a portal to open and release a bunch of demons. To deal with the demons, she had to become her Ghost Rider form, Phantasma. She has some super hot glue chains that she uses to corral them all, and of course she has the ability to open and close portals. She's completely fearless, as exhibited by her complete willingness to just jump through the portal at the end to make sure it closes with no real plan on how to get back. Phantasma was created for the New Champions variant covers event happening this month. We have another new champion, and her name is Liberty. She is part of the team Moon Squire is on, and she looks kind of like if Captain America and the Wasp mashed together. Her brainwashed backstory is she was a tech genius and was a leading mind in the advancement of hard light technology. She realized her true origins upon hearing a very loud scream. Liberty's powers are flight, thanks to her wings, of course, but the wings can also shield her from projectiles and electrical shocks. She's also able to turn invisible, but it isn't like the invisibility is coming from her. She has this light star thing that reflects light, and that renders her invisible to the human eye, as well as cameras and infrared lasers. Liberty's character was teased last year, but 2024 has been this girl's time to shine. Thank you so much to the person that was like, you know what we need? Space Spider-Man. Because we did need Space Spider-Man. I like to have fun, so why not? Persephone Parker is Star Spider. She is also the coolest, and I love her suit. She is from Earth 1978 and debuted in the Edge of Spider-Verse 3 in April. She lives in the space station, Bronx, because that's where her family is from. She's on the station because she's working as an apprentice to Professor Osborn, and they study quantum engineering. Persephone is quite sneaky. She is secretly dating Osborn's daughter and also secretly a space superhero. She utilizes the spiders on the ship, but they're not actual spiders, they're nanobots that use Shi'ar tech. They are what form Persephone's cool outfit. Spider stands for Sanitation, Planning, Integrated Defense, and Engineering Robots. Star Spider's biggest fight so far has been against Octavius and the Kree army that were trying to invade the station. Deathlock is a newer Avenger, and I think he's pretty cool. Deathlock is Miles Morales from Earth 807128. Originally part of the Champions, he ended up facing Annihilus. In that fight, Miles ended up passing on, but then he didn't. He ended up turning into Deathlock instead. From what I can gather from the comic, it's because Miles stole the cosmic control rod from Annihilus and broke it. It caused him to become more cyborg than man. Miles in this universe is very similar to his 616 counterpart. He's fearless and funny and fights like his life depends on it, because it always does. Deathlock is part of the Savage Avengers. Even though they are from separate Earths, there's a lot of timeline messes happening, and that's how they came together. Deathlock debuted in May of 2022, so again, a bit older than some of the other heroes on this list, but no less cool. Ransom, another member of the Outliers, is next. Again, super new, not much is known about his powers, but we do know for sure that he has no heart. And that is me being completely literal. Ransom doesn't have a heart in his chest. Instead, he has a black hole or something like that. Now, this is not fully confirmed yet, but it looks like Ransom is one of those mutants that absorbs energy, and that makes him stronger. I got this vibe because when Wolverine was getting in his face, he said, "Don't touch me," seriously, kind of like a warning. Then when he was sharing his heartbreaking backstory about the time he was kidnapped and his rich parents refused to pay the ransom, the criminals threw him out a window and used their weapons 14 times, which in Ransom's words only made him strong. So it seems like any force used against this guy will only make him a tougher opponent. Moving into vampire territory, we have Pia. Pia is a vampire, as you might have guessed, but she is special and different than other vampires because she isn't hurt by sunlight. This is because she merged with a rabbit familiar named Tito. Pia has been a hero long before she gained her vampire abilities. She actually met her rabbit because she was being chased by a vampire. She saved Tito, but then another vampire ended up biting her. The two found each other again, and presumably as a thank you, Tito merged with Pia, giving her the chance to still exist as she did before. Pia is completely fearless. I mean, as a regular human girl, she took on a vampire with no second thoughts, and then did it again multiple times. But she's also really emotionally mature for her age after everything she has gone through. Her Strange Academy story centered around the vampire pandemic and capturing the Darkhold boy. The Darkhold was being really cruel out of a place of fear, and when given the chance to attack him, Pia instead heard him out and even saved him from Egg of the Harkness by giving him some added protection by giving up Tito. And then she kicked Agatha in the face, so Pia slays. And finally, Deathdream. He is another member of the Outliers, and he is really creepy. He exists between life and death. He can choose which of those states he wants to be in at will. His mutant abilities manifested at birth. He was born still, was revived, and that situation happened 4 times the day of his birth, and by the 4th time his body just started doing it himself. Deathdream, when he chooses to be deceased, has necromancy powers and can summon souls. The souls can possess him, giving him powers like flight, or becoming a black hole. Literally, one of his combat strategies, it's so creepy, he just turns into this black void with a head in the middle and beady red eyes. No thank you. It's clear that Deathdream is incredibly powerful. He's just really young. He doesn't really have a handle on his power yet, so when he gets possessed, he pretty much loses all control of his body, which nearly ended Nightcrawler in what was supposed to be a training exercise. Overall, he just seems like a really sad kid with way more power than he might know what to do with, which means his arc has a lot of potential, and I'm excited to see how his story continues on.
In this 2021 storyline, the Red Skull comes into a new power that removes the powers of other heroes. Tony Stark uses his technology to create the Iron Avengers. Captain America, Captain Marvel, Black Panther, Spider-Man, Wolverine, and obviously Iron Man, basically the most popular Avengers, all get Iron Man-like mech suits that they can use to fight against similarly meched up villains. The whole thing was basically a partnership with Bandai Namco to create Avenger-themed mech toys. so it has no numerical Earth number. But who cares? The art is sweet, the idea is original, and the toys are kinda cool. Number 9. Earth 1048. The reality of Earth 1048 is actually the reality seen in the Marvel Spider-Man game that came out on PlayStation, plus its associated comics and novels. Seeing as this game is highly beloved by many Spider-Man fans, including myself, I thought it deserved a mention. The universe first appeared in the Marvel Spider-Man Hostile Takeover novel on August 21st, 2018, which served as a prequel for the events of the game. In case it wasn't clear, this is also the universe featured in Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, and will be the same world in the next entry to the series, Marvel's Spider-Man 2. All the games so far have had fantastic open world versions of Manhattan, some of the best web swinging in a video game so far, tons of alternate reality and original spider suits, and are all really fun. Number 8. Earth 8. First appearing in Spider-Man Volume 2 number 14 in 2017, Earth 8 is a pretty great place. Essentially, it's a possible future of the reality of Earth 65. A utopia where Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy got married and were part of a team called the Amazing Eight, whose members included Spider-Boy and Spider-Girl, Miles and Gwen's kids, Spider-Ham, Penny Parker and her Spider-Mech, Jerry Drew Spider-Man, and an unnamed Spider-Woman that resembled Kraven the Hunter. The Spider-Gwen of Earth 65 came to Earth 8 to ask for the Amazing Eight's help to fight Silk in her reality. Unfortunately, Miles and Gwen were on their second honeymoon, so she only got the Amazing 6 out of 8, but that was enough it seems. Number 7. Earth 2319. Appearing in the New Avengers Volume 3 number 14 in 2014, Earth 2319 is one of the Earths that dealt with the incursions. This Earth had gone through a fourth age of apocalypse, which resulted in the collapse of the Phoenix eggs, which in turn led to Magneto forming the floating twin cities of Tian, where mutants would be safe. The floating cities ended up being the point of an incursion witnessed by the 616 Mr. Fantastic. An Illuminati team was formed on the Earth that consisted of Mr. Fantastic, Doctor Doom, Black Panther, Yellow Jacket, both Captain Britons, Betsy Braddock and Brian Braddock, Iron Man, and Emma Frost. It was basically used as an example of what the Sidera Maris, which are an army of robots created by the mapmakers, could do after they invaded from the incursing Earth, resulting in the eventual destruction of Earth 2319. Number 6. Darkhold Universes. Earth 21129, Earth 42222, Earth 52433, Earth 64211, and Earth 37640. Now, this one point is actually going to cover multiple different alternate Earths in one, because they are all part of the same event. The Darkhold is basically a codex written on flesh by the elder god Chthon of all his evil works and spells. There is a stone transcription and a series of scrolls that act as the same thing. But when the true Darkhold was found by Victorious and Doctor Doom, it opened a pathway between the other world and our world, and awoke Chthon in preparation for the coming conflict and to temper them with madness, which is just the dumbest idea I've ever heard of. Victorious and Scarlet Witch had Iron Man, Blade, Wasp, Black Bolt, and Spider-Man all read from the book. The problem was they read too far, were corrupted, and saw horror story versions of their lives, resulting in 5 alternate realities and 5 2021 stories you need to read. Number 5. Earth TRN 891, Dark Ages. In the alternate Earth TRN 891, after a battle with an ancient, powerful, galaxy-attacking robot that was trapped inside the Earth billions of years ago called the Unmaker, Doctor Strange opened a portal to create an EMP that would defeat the Unmaker. This worked, but Strange died before he could close the portal. This resulted in a huge EMP that shut off all electricity on Earth. This led to various wars in the post-apocalypse, killing billions of people. Eventually, things calmed down and people lived in various different communities, surviving against attacks from vampires and werewolves. In Europe, however, the mutant apocalypse had taken over, and using brainwashed geniuses from around the world, began attempting to reawaken the Unmaker for his own villainous deeds. Number 4. Bloodline. In the J.J. and Henry Abrams written storyline from 2019, Mary Jane Watson is killed by a villain known as Cadaverous after Spider-Man is swarmed and beaten pretty badly by his minions. 12 years later, the story has a one-armed version of Peter Parker, who is now the honestly pretty bad single father of Ben Parker, Peter and Mary Jane's son. After Cadaverous returns out of hiding and kidnaps Peter to use his blood for his evil plans, it is up to the new Spider-Man, Ben Parker, with the help of his friend Faye Ito, and old Tony Stark and Riri Williams to fight Cadaverous and his minions, which includes a cyber-zombified team of Avengers. Look guys, in this reality, YouTube has this algorithm thing, right? And when you like and subscribe to us, it signals to the YouTube overlords that we are worthy of being seen by all you lovely people and new people, helping us grow and continue to pump out videos like this one. So I just want to say thanks for doing that for us. We appreciate every like and subscribe you drop. Okay, on to the top 3. Number 3. Earth TRN 852, Heroes Reborn. When Phil Coulson sold his soul to Mephisto in the 2021 event Heroes Reborn, he was given an object called the Pandemonium Cube, which he used to warp reality, creating the alternate world of TRN 852. Here, the Avengers were never assembled, instead replaced by the Squadron Supreme of America, which consisted of the heroes Hyperion, Nighthawk, Power Princess, Blur, Dr. Spectrum, and Skymax. Tony Stark never created the Iron Man armor, Carol Danvers never became a hero, Captain America remained a capsicle, and the Hulk was banished to the negative zone. After the Earth 616 version of Blade ended up on this Earth, he began assembling the Avengers again, starting with Captain Popsicle. Number 2. Earth 001, home of the Inheritors. First appearing in Superior Spider-Man number 33 in September 2014, Earth 001, or Loom World, is home to the Inheritors, who are a clan of very strong beings who hunt and feed upon the life force of animal totems, specifically spider totems, meaning all the Spider-Man and women of the Marvel multiverse. Loom World is also the home to the Master Weaver and the Web of Life and Destiny, which is basically a model of the entire universe and allows for travel to different realities. The Web of Life and Destiny and the Master Weaver were captured by the Inheritor family, who used it to hunt various Spider-Man. The event this takes place in is an awesome one, and if you get the chance, I highly suggest that you give it a read. Number 1. Earth 15513, there was nothing, followed by everything. Swirling, burning specks of creation that circled life-giving suns. God, Doom, created the light. Then there was Earth. The firmament cooled and he raised up a land, this holy land, the world, and upon it he set his kingdoms. Earth 15513, also known formerly as Battle World, and more recently as Battle Realm, is where God Emperor Doom created his new world using the power of the Beyonders after the destruction of the multiverse in the 2015 Secret Wars event. After the final battle between God Emperor Doom and Mr. Fantastic, Battleworld was destroyed and became the center of the new multiverse. The remaining reality became Battle Realm, where the Elders of the Universe, the Grand Master and the Collector, held the
Starling is the girlfriend of Miles Morales' Spider-Man. At least, at the time of this recording, I'm pretty sure she is. Starling is Tiana Toombs, the granddaughter of Adrian Toombs, who is the villain known as the Vulture. Tiana's father is Adrian's son, Frankie, and her mother is Lenora. While she often sports wings in homage to her grandfather, she isn't a villain like he is more often known for being. In fact, Adrian actually helped Tiana after her father abandoned her and her mother, and then later after her mother tragically died in surgery. Adrian had always brought money to Lenora to help support her and his granddaughter, and after Lenora's death, he actually offered to become Tiana's guardian, which she accepted. He was also the one who gave Tiana her suit and actually inspired her to become the hero she is today, despite he himself usually being known as a villain. I kinda love when legacy characters go the opposite way of any other characters they're known as being descendants of. Starling made her first appearance back in Saladin Ahmed's run on Miles Morales' Spider-Man from 2019 in issue number 5. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, you can also go check out our Top 10 Marvel playlist for even more good old Marvel content. Number 9. Somnus. Somnus was first introduced in a super cute story that was featured in the 2021 Marvel Pride issue. In his origin story, we learn that Carlo Valentino is actually an old flame of Dawkins. They met in Canada in the 1960s in Toronto, Ontario. At the time, Carl was living a closeted life, both as a mutant, I believe, and also as a queer man. During a one-night stand, Carl used his powers while they slept concept to live an entire life out with Daken in their dreams together. His mutant powers basically allow him to manipulate and control the dreams of others, an Oniromancer as we would say, which is how he was able to do this. Seemingly spooked by this experience, having lived a whole life with Carl in his dreams, only to wake up and find it had been just that, a very vivid dream, and that Daken was still as he was the day prior after living a whole life overnight, Daken was sure to leave before Carl awoke. While the two never really talked after this, Daken seemingly never forgot Carl. After Carl passed on, presumably from old age, with Daken attending his funeral, Daken actually asked to have him resurrected, giving him a second chance to live the life that he always wanted, proudly, out of the closet, both in terms of his orientation and as a mutant. Carl took the name Somnus for himself, his mutant name, and would later join Kate Pryde's Marauders team. I also super duper love his design. His outfit is so good. Somnus is such a cool character. Number 8. Soldier Supreme. Soldier Supreme made his first appearance in Jason Aaron's run on Avengers, which started all the way back in 2018 and is still currently ongoing. Soldier Supreme would not make his first appearance until issue number 50 of the series, meaning that he appeared for the first time in the comics back in December of 2021. Soldier Supreme is a magical superhero from the 1940s who also would be trained by the Ancient One and become the leader of the Secret Invaders. Despite existing in the past in the comics, he would be introduced as a retcon character in the present, our present, during an adventure the Avengers had involving time travel. Soldier Supreme is Sebastian Zardos, possibly related to another Phoenix host who is also a Zardos, or perhaps even possibly distantly related to the adoptive family of Nightcrawler, who are also the Zardoses. Who knows? Sebastian was known to have descended from old powerful magic through the witches of Wundagore Mountain. Number 7. Moon Knight. No, not Mark Spector of Earth 616. Obviously, he has been around for some time and is not really new, making his first appearance back in the 70s in Werewolf by Night issue number 32. But you know who is new? The Moon Knight of Earth 818, a hero who first appeared in the 2021 volume of Avengers Forever in issue number 1. This Moon Knight is known by the name of Mariama Spector. She appears at the end of that first issue where we learn she is part of the team and that an alternate Tony Stark as Ant-Man seems to lead. Tony of Earth 818 calls his team together after believing that something is shifting and that they might actually stand a chance at saving the whole world. Or whatever. Mariama would appear within the first issues of this run of Avengers Forever, and would also appear in some of the later issues in the series too. The first issue of the 2021 Avengers Forever series was released in December of 2021. Number 6. Tosin Oduye. Tosin Oduye is a hero that made his first debut in the current Black Panther series by John Ridley. He made his first appearance in issue number 3 of this 2022 series. He is a hero of Wakanda, but is actually greatly separated from Wakanda in some ways as well. He belongs to the Marube tribe, who chose to separate from the mainland of Wakanda and basically isolate themselves as they rejected the ideas of many who believed that vibranium should be bended to their own will and used like a tool. Instead, his people focused on finding a more natural approach to vibranium, finding natural ways to temper it, and focusing on flowing with vibranium as opposed to using it simply to do whatever they felt vibranium should be used to do. The Marube cover themselves in vibranium tattoos, and this is how they are given their powers. The Marube had seen much war come and go during the generations, and their goal was and is to basically stand as Wakanda's protectors when the time comes. Following the transition from a monarchy to a democracy, Tosin was one of the heroes who rose up to protect the new Prime Minister of Wakanda, declaring himself as Tosin, who fights for the one true Wakanda. Number 5. Amass. Amass is one of the mutants who is new despite actually being really old in terms of the history in the comics. In fact, possibly one of the oldest mutants we've ever seen. They made their first appearance in Marauders issue number 4, the current volume by Steve Orlando, not the previous run by Jerry Dugan. This is volume 2 we are talking about here, which started in 2022. Amass is actually one of my favorite new mutants when it comes to their power set and their potential. They can combine living beings into one, amassing and unifying them into one entity. For mutants that join together, this is exceptionally cool, as all the mutants' powers will be contained within one being, making them, while combined, extremely powerful. And I believe that if Amass were to do this with regular superheroes that were non-mutant superheroes, that would also be true, which is pretty cool. You could also combine non-mutant superheroes and probably mutants. The potential's crazy. If they have the right power sets, as we learn in the current Marauders series, while combined, the mutants can even use their powers together to do things like time travel. Pretty wild, right? Number 4. Thea. Thea is another mutant who comes from the very first mutant civilization, which actually existed way in the past, but basically were all wiped out. Their history hidden away for millennia by the Shi'ar, or more specifically, the secret was kept by the Shi'ar's secret society known as the Kin Crimson, who are basically supposed to keep some of the worst Shi'ar secrets secret to like protect the Shi'ar, protect the crown. Thea was one of the mutants from the Threshold, the name for their ancient mutant civilization, who had their consciousness, memories, and genetic data stored within a codex, with the hopes that one day someone would retrieve that and be able to free those locked safely within it, bringing them back into the living physical plane. This group was known as the Threshold 3 and included Amass and Crave as well. Thea herself is a time manipulator, with her mutant power being chronokinesis. She and Tempo seem to develop a closer connection early on in the Marauder series. Thea first appears in the same issue that Amass first appeared in, issue number 4. Number 3. Monolith. Gosh, I love Monolith's design. Monolith seems to be an ally to the Hulk. Currently, the Hulk in his own series, titled simply Hulk, is flying around space, but is actually the mind of Bruce Banner in the body of the Hulk, with Bruce having taken control and modified Hulk's body to turn him into like a spaceship, basically. Having always wanted to live as a scientist and explore the world and go on cool space adventures, Bruce struggles to see a home for himself on Earth after everything he has done, and so he decides to actually just take control of the Hulk and go to outer space. A sort of self-imposed exile, if you will, but one where he gets to like actually do what he wants to do as a scientist. While on his space adventures, he runs into a kind of planet Hulk that seems to be perfect for people like him. It seems exiled Hulks, who were dubbed abominations in an alternate reality that they hail from, seem to have come to this planet and ended up settling here, all becoming super strong and smart over time. Initially they were basically exiled there, but then they basically just decided to create their own civilization. Monolith is their ruler, being the queen of this seemingly Hulk planet. Honestly, her existence is one of my favorite things about this entire series. She first appears in issue number 9 of the current Hulk series, volume number 5 from 2022. And while, yeah, we don't really know if she's like specifically a superhero yet, I feel like she's leaning that way. Number 2. Wreck Rap. Who is Wreck Rap? Well, he very recently made his first appearance at Amazing Spider-Man issue number 17, where that question is, of course, answered. Wreck Rap is a demon from Limbo who admires Spider-Man, looking up to him. He originally takes the name of Parker Man for himself. He ends up becoming an ally and supporting character in the current Amazing Spider-Man story, Dark Web. In issue number 17, Parker saved him from another demon who basically wanted to beat up the latter named Parker Man. This act inspires him to want to be a hero like Parker Peach Man, and so he sets out to try and get superpowers. In the end, he instead gets a symbiote and ends up taking a new name for himself after he is told that the demon army doesn't really need another Parker and that he had it backwards. After all, they weren't looking for more heroes, they were actually looking for more villains. The name this demon settles on is of course Wreck Rap because it is Parker backwards. Get it? Because they were like, you got it all backwards, and he was like, alright, I'll have it backwards then. Number 1. Red Goblin. While Normie Osborn, grandson of Norman Osborn and son of Harry Osborn and Liz Allen, is a character who has been around since the 1980s and even became a villainous version of Carnage and the Goblin combined, known as the Goblin Child, back in 2018. He also recently underwent a new change, becoming known as Red Goblin himself. At first, I was worried that Norman would actually be returning to this mantle when this was teased, the return of Red Goblin, and almost instantly, of course, then returning to the side of villainy after only recently becoming good in the comics, goodness. But it looks like, at least in terms of Red Goblin's return and that character's identity, I was wrong, which I'm happy about. Red Goblin instead returned to us in Venom issue number 15 from volume 5, the 2022 run, as Normie Osborn. Normie was given a symbiote that is the result of the combination of both the Carnage symbiote and the anti-Venom symbiote. While in his Red Goblin guise, he seems to be acting solely as a hero who basically aims to help his friend Dylan Brock, aka currently known as Codex, save his father Eddie Brock, currently the King in Black in his Bedlam phase, and formerly known as the anti-hero, and I would say now full-fledged hero, Venom. Not to be confused with L'Oreal, which is a brand. just to be clear. L'Oreal is the sister of Captain Marvel, who first appeared in issue 18 of the current Captain Marvel series, which started back in 2019. She was genetically bred by Kree scientists who created her to be a powerful warrior using the DNA of 2 accomplished Kree warriors who came before her, one of which was Carol Danvers' mother, Mari-El. That makes L'Oreal Carol's full Kree half-sister. Carol was working as an accuser when she first ran into L'Oreal, and was tasked with apprehending and executing her, as she was believed to be the Kree responsible for a large massacre. Carol learned of L'Oreal's parentage and believed her to be innocent, so instead spirited her away until she could locate the person who was truly responsible for the massacre. After the events of Empire, where the 2 sisters fought side by side, L'Oreal ended up becoming Emperor Hulkling's new accuser, taking Carol's place. Also, L'Oreal, fun fact, is really funny, and if you get to read her as Emperor Hulkling's accuser, you'll see what I'm talking about. Number 9. Katie Chen from the MCU. Katie, or Ruin Chen, is probably one of my favorite new characters in the MCU, if not just my full-on favorite now, I think. Katie is the best friend of Sean and grew up with him, but later learns that her friend Sean has a complicated past that he's been running from for basically years. And in fact, Sean's given name was never actually Sean, but instead Shang-Chi. Katie might not have superpowers, but she comes with a can-do attitude no matter the odds. We also learn that despite the fact that Katie works as a valet alongside Sean, that she actually graduated from Berkeley, but isn't really doing much with her college degree. Katie loves driving fast and karaoke, a woman after my own heart. Number 8. Werewolf by Night. The new Werewolf by Night is known as Jake Gomez. He made his first appearance in the newest Werewolf by Night series in issue number 1. Jake discovers as a teenager that he can transform into a wolf during the night, no full moon necessary. Jake ends up wrestling with his werewolf form, attempting to use it to do some good for his people while struggling to be in full control of himself while transformed. Jake is supported by his sister Molly, who helps him by using music, creating playlists to help soothe him, allowing him to gain more control, and his grandmother. Number 7. Zhu Xialing from the MCU. Zhu Xialing is the sister of Shang-Chi, who appears in his self-titled feature film. We learn that despite the fact that her father never felt it would be appropriate to train her, at night she would practice in secret, watching his elite soldiers, known as the 10 Rings, during the day, and attempting to teach herself their movements during the night. Like her brother Shang-Chi, she also became a woman on the run. However, for Xialing, instead of running from her potential destiny, she attempts to seize for herself the role she feels was denied to her growing up. It's likely that the Shang-Chi film won't be the last that we'll see of this new Marvel Cinematic Universe character, and that she won't necessarily be quite as black and white as some of the other Marvel characters that we've come to know, which I'm so ready for. I love when characters have so much depth. Number 6. Black Winter. Black Winter is going to be a huge big bad that will be coming our way eventually in the comics. Likely much later on, like we're talking a few years away. Black Winter isn't actually a completely new character, but has recently been reinvented in terms of their part as one of the biggest bads ever faced in the comics. Black Winter actually first appeared under the name The Creeping Plague back in the 60s in Thor issue 169. But more recently in 2019, the entity appeared under a new name in Silver Surfer Black issue number 4, becoming known as Black Winter. The entity can take on any shape or form it pleases and is responsible for ending Galactus' home universe. The Black Winter will also likely be the way the current Marvel universe ends. While Thor and Galactus teamed up in the beginning of the current Thor run, Volume 6, Donny Cates' run, to destroy the Black Winter, Thor really only succeeded in temporarily defeating the entity, leaving Thor with visions of a bleak end to come, which includes the return of Thanos. Alright friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want to learn about more of the newest characters that we've seen in the last year or two, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. There's lots of new characters. There's lots more people I want to talk to you about, so please give it a thumbs up. Share it. Get it the views so I can give you the video. Number 5. Yelena Belova from the MCU. Yelena Belova is like the little sister of Black Widow in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, though to be clear, she isn't blood related to Natasha, or not that we know of anyways. It turns out both Yelena and Natasha were part of a team of undercover Russian operatives and spies who are posing as an all-American family as their cover. They were in the US to gain important scientific intel when they were kids that the head of the Red Room, Dreykov, off, wanted to ultimately help expand and grow his empire. Yelena was posing as Natasha's little sister when they were undercover. Even after Black Widow became an Avenger and thought that she had actually taken down the Red Room, it was revealed that Yelena actually remained a spy and operative for the secret organization due to the fact that earlier on, Black Widow and Hawkeye had actually failed to complete that mission to destroy the organization in Budapest. Yelena will likely be taking over and becoming a sort of White Widow, if you will, in the MCU. At least that's what I think we're gonna know her as. Working on a team that Contessa Valentina Allegra de la Fontaine is putting together. In the comics, Yelena is a bit of a different character. She is a rival of Black Widow's who is sometimes an ally and sometimes a foe, depending on the circumstances. And as far as I know, she's never worn quite as cool of a vest as her MCU counterpart, though she was a model at one point. That was a thing that happened. Number 4. Genesis. Genesis is a pretty important character who apparently has always existed, but who we never really knew about. Ooh, mysteries. She made her first full appearance in the 2019 run of X-Men back in issue 12. We would learn that she is the wife of Apocalypse, who was long ago lost to her husband, who ended up leaving another mutant island nation known as Araco. The other half, it turns out, of Krakoa. Genesis is a strong warrior and an all-around badass, basically pretty much exactly what you'd expect Apocalypse's wife to be. She also happens to be a mother, as it turns out that Apocalypse and Genesis together had a whole family of strong, also badass mutant children. Currently, Genesis and Apocalypse are back together and are likely taking a little off-panel vacation, as we haven't really seen them in a little while, so I hope they're enjoying themselves. Hope they're getting a time to reconnect, because they've been apart for so long. Number 3. Shang-Chi from the MCU. Shang-Chi first appeared in the comics back in the 70s, but it took him 13 years to make his way into the MCU from when it started way back in 2008. Simu Liu is the actor to take up the role of this new hero in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Shang-Chi is introduced in his own self-titled feature film Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings, where, no major plot spoilers here, no major plot spoilers, we learn that he is a man running from the past, living under the alias of Sean in the United States, after escaping the supposed wrath of his father, criminal overlord Wenwu. We follow him on his journey as he is suddenly recalled home, back to his family under mysterious circumstances, all while uncovering his family's story, history, and the Legend of the Ten Rings. If you haven't seen Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings yet, I actually cannot recommend this movie more. I think it actually may have become one of my all-time favorite films, both within and without the MCU. That is just how great it is. I cannot praise it enough. If you haven't seen it yet, like, pause this video, go watch it, and then come back. That's how good it is. You gotta go right now. Number 2. Venom. That's right, there is a new Venom in town. This one is the son of Eddie Brock and his ex-wife Anne Wang. His name is Dylan Brock. Dylan's existence at first was a shock to Eddie, and it also seemed as though Venom was involved in his genetic creation as well, being that Venom was bonded to Eddie at the time of Dylan's conception. Dylan and Eddie both, however, managed to survive past the crazy summer event that was absolute carnage, where he resurrected Cletus Cassidy as a Grendel symbiote version of Carnage, threatened to awaken the god of symbiotes, Null, who would threaten the entire Earth. While Eddie did manage to save his son Dylan, he could not avoid waking Null, who then arrived on Earth during another summer event, Marvel's King in Black event. With Null defeated, Eddie took his place as the god and ruler of symbiotes, and the Venom symbiote was tasked with keeping an eye on Dylan. Dylan has since bonded with the Venom symbiote, and together the two are now the new Venom. So you can enjoy that. Kids grow up so fast in comics. They don't get to be kids for very long, do they? Number 1. Kang the Conqueror from the MCU. Kang is a character that I really never would have expected to see in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it's happened, and I gotta say, I'm like weirdly hyped about it. Kang made his first appearance in the season 1 finale of Marvel's streaming series Loki, where he was played by Jonathan Majors. We already knew to expect Jonathan Majors as the character, but didn't anticipate him to show up so early in that role, instead expecting him to arrive in the MCU in Ant-Man and the Wasp's film Quantumania, where he was believed to be the major villain. It turns out, however, that there isn't just one Kang, but infinite Kangs across the multiverse. One of these Kangs was the one behind the Time Variance Authority, or the TVA, it turns out, but now that it has been toppled, this has allowed multiple realities with other, possibly even more sinister, powerful, and ruthless Kangs to spring up. So get ready for some Kang mania, it sounds like. Also, we need a Kang movie, because I want Quantumania and I want like Kang Mania to also be a movie now.
Why do you need to know about American Kaiju? Does the name alone not answer that question? First appearing in Avengers Volume 6, Number 0 in October of 2015, US Army Corporal Todd Ziller was the test subject of a procedure by Project Troubleshooter, America's latest attempt to recreate the super soldier serum. As you may be aware, this rarely goes well for anyone. In this case, the gaps of knowledge in Abraham Erskine's serum were replaced by gamma enhancements, mutant growth hormone, PIM particles, and Dr. Kurt Connor's lizard formula, because those have all been absolute winners in the past. Now this cobbled together serum coursing through Ziller's body turned him into a giant reptile very similar to Godzilla, for which he was given the alias of American Kaiju. He's basically Godzilla with an American flag painted on the top of his head. Now he was unleashed and attacked Avengers Island after Avengers Idea Mechanics tried to rescue Rick Jones from S.H.I.E.L.D. custody. This led American Kaiju to do battle with Avenger 5, basically a giant robot. Yes, it was pretty awesome, I'm not gonna lie. But next up, first introduced in the Sins of Sinister timeline, John Ironfire became so damn popular that he made it into the Earth 616 timeline. Ironfire is a mutant from Morocco with the power to turn his blood into metal that he can then control. In one of his first appearances, Ironfire uses his powers to create metal claws, kind of like Wolverine, but his abilities are so much more than just making claws. Ironfire can use his power to create horns, armor, and he's even created molten bullets that he shoots at enemies. During Sins of Sinister, he serves as a right-hand man to Storm in her Brotherhood and lives hundreds of years into the future, eventually looking a lot like Odin if I'm honest. After the conclusion of Sins of Sinister, he arrives in the main 616 continuity, where it's revealed that he is a member of the White Sword's 100 Champions, an army that basically wages an eternal battle in the lands of Amenth. Ironfire is the last of these warriors, arriving on Morocco with the White Sword's blade, Purity. He warns the Iraqi mutants that Genesis, the wife of Apocalypse, is coming to conquer the planet, and he stands with them in battle. He's pretty cool. Mark Spector became the Fist of Khonshu when he was chosen by Khonshu himself and was given the moniker of Moon Knight. Now years and years later, however, in Moon Knight Volume 9, Number 1 from July 2021, Mark learned that Khonshu actually has two hands, and therefore two fists. And the second one was Dr. Yahya Badir. Originally someone who didn't believe in higher deities, Yahya was attacked by vampires and left for dead when he met the Egyptian moon god Khonshu. He was then saved and became a worshipper of Khonshu known as Hunter's Moon, the god's second high priest and opposite of Moon Knight. After Moon Knight refused to worship Khonshu but appropriated his mission, establishing the Midnight Mission, Hunter's Moon moved to his territory and took over a free clinic in the neighborhood in order to keep watch over Moon Knight, intending to correct the vigilante whom he believed had strayed away from Khonshu's purpose. Hunter's Moon has all the memories of the previous characters who became Khonshu's Moon Knight, making him one of Marvel's best hand-to-hand fighters. He eventually began working as Spectre's ally at the Midnight Mission, and I highly suggest you read that volume of Moon Knight to learn more. Debuting in Powers of X Number 1, which released in early 2019, Rasputin 4 is one of the more interesting recent additions to the X-Men, but she's also one of the most overpowered. Created as possibly the most powerful of Mr. Sinister's chimeras, which were basically spliced together mutants who possessed more than one hero's power, Rasputin 4 possesses 5 powers. She has the osmium metal skin of Colossus, the telekinesis and telepathy of Quentin Quire, the force fields of Gunther Bane aka Eunice the Untouchable, the intangibility of Kitty Pryde, and just to top it all off, she has the healing factor of X-23 Laura Kinney, or basically Wolverine. So as you can imagine, she is a force to be reckoned with, and on top of that, she wields the Soul Sword. Currently, as far as I've read, Rasputin 4 is working pretty closely with Charles Xavier to fight back against Orcus and others during the fall of X. While she was initially controlled by Sinister, he himself undid that, and together the two actually saved the universe, with Rasputin doing most of the heavy lifting if we're being honest. More recently in the Fall of X event, she was called away by Professor X to join the crew of No Place X, venturing into the alternate timelines created by the Moira engine, hoping to wipe out Mr. Sinister clones in each one before they could become Dominions and to prevent the Enigma from ever existing. Next up, the character of Scarlet Scarab has has been around for a long time in Marvel Comics, like since the 1970s, but the latest hero to carry the mantle is pretty unique in that she first debuted in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Layla Al-Fayouli first appeared in the Moon Knight Disney Plus series with Oscar Isaac as an adventurer and the wife of Mark Spector. In the series' final episode, she becomes an avatar of the Egyptian goddess of women and children known as Taweret. Layla gained the ability to fly using those sweet golden wings, as well as superhuman strength and agility. Now, because of how popular her character in the show became, Layla's Scarlet Scarab made her debut in the actual comics in Moon Knight number 25 in July 2023. Similar to her origins in the show, she becomes an avatar of Taweret and reveals herself as the new Scarlet Scarab to Mark when he travels to the underworld, as Layla lost her life on a mission after becoming romantically involved with Mark Spector. Losing Layla was actually a factor that led Mark down a path that would eventually make him assume the mantle of Moon Knight, making her now, retroactively, tied to his comic book origin story. Now, maybe this next point is kind of cheating, but I'm making the entire new Ultimate Universe my next point. The Ultimate Universe used to be one of the most popular parts of Marvel Comics' publishing line. The Ultimate Universe was ended in the aftermath of Secret Wars, but alas, Jonathan Hickman has returned to bring the universe back to life with the miniseries Ultimate Invasion. Considering the current popularity of the multiverse concept, reviving Marvel's Ultimate Universe is a move long overdue, and Jonathan Hickman is definitely the perfect choice to script it. There's plenty of payoffs for those up to date with current Marvel continuity, as the evil alternate universe Reed Richards, also known as the Maker, who originated in the Ultimate Universe, escapes into a parallel dimension where he influences events through time to remake this universe into what he wants it to be. There are fresh takes on characters like Spider-Man, Black Panther, Tony Stark, Reed Richards, Thor, and many, many more. But this new universe also has completely original characters, like a lot of the ones currently making up the Ultimate X-Men created by Peach Momoko. Moving on, 1500 years ago in Baghdad, a group of rampaging monsters known as the Army of the Devil was banished and bound to ordinary objects by the sorcerer known as Red Owl. At the moment of his passing, Red Owl then sent the monster's cursed artifacts across the globe. On that day, Fadi Fadlala's ancestors pledged to find the 1,000 cursed items and seal them away, and this duty was passed down through the generations, falling on Fadi's shoulders when he was a teenager, turning him into the superhero Amulet. Amulet first debuted in Magnificent Miss Marvel number 13 from March of 2020 in Jersey City when one of the demons of the Army of the Devil surfaced at a fair in Sussex County. Now, as you might have guessed, Amulet teamed up with Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, destroying the artifact and banishing the monster. Now, he has teamed up with Kamala a few other times, but also with Miles Morales' Spider-Man, all while fighting and banishing more of these demons. Amulet essentially has the power to conjure Nazar's shields, which can vary in size, are powered and enhanced by love, can be used offensively, and even be used as platforms for Fadi to walk on air, similar to what Kamala did in the MCU TV show. Coming to us from Marvel's Voices Infinity Comic number 100 from May of this year, 2024, Jun Sung Justin Jin is Kid Juggernaut. And if that is causing you to go, wait, what? Yeah, exactly. Justin here is the son of Jin Jung Woo, who in turn is the son of Jin Moon Ho, who we learn was the Juggernaut before even Kane Marco had the job. After Moon Ho gained the powers of Sidorak, he was forced to join the Japanese Imperial forces who were occupying Korea at that time. And when Sidorak ordered Moon Ho to attack his own village, Moon Ho refused and the power went to Kane Marco, who then took the life of Moon Ho. Now, when Justin was 17 years old, his father mysteriously passed away and Justin received his belongings, which included a fragment of the Crimson Gem of Sidorak. After making contact with the artifact, Justin was given the powers of the Juggernaut. Justin learned his family history with the gem from his mother, who witnessed the transformation into Juggernaut, and how his father refused to take the powers out of shame. Justin and his mother were then confronted by Malfagor, a follower of Sidorak who wished to acquire the power of the Juggernaut for himself and had taken the life of Justin's father looking for the gem. Justin and Malfagor battled in the streets of Vancouver until Dr. Stephen Strange intervened to help rescue Justin, and he eventually joined Avengers Academy. In our runner-up spot, those heroes who have taken up the name Jackpot have not had the greatest of luck, which is kind of funny. It goes without saying that the Jackpot name is not new, with the first being Alana Jobson, who appeared back in 2008. The first Jackpot is now nowhere to be found, and the second met her demise under its moniker, but the third time's the charm, and the third time, the moniker of Jackpot fell to none other than Mary Jane Watson. Mary Jane debuted as Jackpot in Amazing Spider-Man Volume 6, number 31 from August of 2023. Mary Jane basically became trapped in an alternate dimension with a man named Paul Rabin, and while only a few days passed in the real world, for them it was actually several years, leading them to grow close, adopt 2 children, and develop a slot machine device that generates random superpowers for MJ. After returning from the dimension, eventually Black Cat encourages MJ to lean into her new powers and become a superhero. Mary Jane then adopts the name Jackpot, which is actually also a callback to the very first words she ever said to Peter Parker. "Face it, Tiger, you just hit the jackpot." Pretty cool. And lastly, Marvel's New Gods series has been teased for months with backup stories in the pages of various Marvel Comics titles, giving us glimpses into what's happening and the premise of the story. Now, it's done. Each of the story's key players has shown up in these back pages, including what seems to be the main player, a guy called Wynn, also known as Sir Redwyn. Wynn is the avatar of the powers that be, an ancient entity or group that ultimately oversees all things strange and magical in Marvel Comics. Wynn received the role of Avatar over a millennium ago and has served faithfully in safeguarding the universe, without any of us knowing somehow. Thanks to his long life and his knack for always landing in hot water, he knows how to get himself out of a tight spot, even as he begrudgingly performs his obligatory duties. Now, I've seen him often compared to DC's Constantine, and I think that's actually somewhat accurate, especially in his personality. Wynn's position as the avatar of the powers that be is only one half of the overarching mythology introduced in the Gods comics, and he's the direct opposite of the powers that be are the natural order of things, and they oversee all things pure and scientific. Rather than having a single representative in the form of an avatar like Wynn, the natural order of things is represented by 100 immortal individuals who comprise the Centum, and one of them is Wynn's wife, Eiko Maki.
Spider-Man. Miles Morales' new series as Spider-Man is already being hyped by fans. Now, it's only got 2 issues out thus far, but fans are already loving Cody Ziegler and Federico Vincentini's take on the character. Some are even saying this is some of the best work, if not the best work, that Vincentini has ever done. I personally love Miles as a character, and I was honestly sad to see his last run by Saladin Ahmed come to a close, but hearing all the buzz around the newest series now just makes me really excited to see what this next chapter holds for Miles in both his personal life and his crime-fighting career. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love all things Spider-Man, Miles, Peter, Ben, all the Spider people, folks, Jessica Drew, there's a lot of Spider-Man stuff. Be sure to check out our Spider-Man playlist, where we have all of the good Spidey content for you. Number 9, Captain Marvel. This is a series I have been wanting to read for some time, and it's only been bolstered by the fact that I've only really heard great things about the comic and the fact that it's gone on for so long, which is usually a good indicator in terms of when you're deciding whether or not you should buy a comic or get into it. If it's got a long run, it usually means other people are buying it and loving it, so that's a good sign. The other thing I will say is anytime I have popped into this comic, because I have read a little bit of it here and there, bits of issues, I've loved everything I've read, so yeah. Captain Marvel follows the journey of Carol Danvers, both in space and on Earth. It is written by Kelly Thompson, who I also will say I generally love everything that she writes, and has gone on for 45 issues thus far, with solicitations actually taking it till at least issue number 48, and I believe we can go till at least issue 50 with this one. I mean, 100 issues though of Captain Marvel would also be insane. So if we could do that, I'd be here for that. I love Carol, so. Number 8, Star Wars Yoda. Star Wars Yoda is a comic that I would heavily recommend people read. I just finished the first story arc myself with issue number 3, that sort of arc comes to a close, and I loved it. I'm not sure if Yoda has ever had a comic before, but based on what I know, he hasn't. Kind of tried to look into it a bit and I couldn't find anything. Granted, I'm not as immersed in the world of Star Wars comics as I would like to be, so I could be wrong about that. However, I have wanted to get more into Star Wars comics for some time, and so far this has proven to be a series that I would recommend as a good and semi-familiar place to start for those of you that also want to jump into something. We all know Yoda, but what we don't know is about all the insane adventures he's gone on during his life, which is what this series dives into as Yoda reminisces on his past while living on Dagobah, waiting for Luke to one day arrive. Star Wars Yoda is by Cavan Scott with art by Nico Leone. Also, I know Marvel is not the only one to have ever done Star Wars comics, so if there are any Yoda comic series that existed prior to this one, please let me and all of us know in the comments, because I would love to check them out if they do exist and I somehow missed them in my research. Number 7, Wasp. This is a character I've been talking about for a while in regards to wondering where her main series was at. I mean, Wasp has had series, but a lot of them tend to be team-up series with, you know, Ant-Man. Or just, where is Wasp in general, I guess I should say. I feel like we haven't seen Jan for some time in the comics, and it's weird, especially considering that, you know, she was once, for a long while, a core member, and of course, one of the founding members of the Avengers team. In fact, Jan even led the Avengers for some time as well. The last I spotted Jan was in the current She-Hulk series, and even there, she was just making a cameo. I remember when she showed up, I was like, wait, where has Jen been? Huh? She also doesn't have a team up with Jen or anything. She's just helping Jennifer out with finding an apartment while Jen focuses on landing back on her feet and getting her own place. Also, how is Jen and Jan not a team up series that has happened yet? Or has it happened and I somehow missed it? Cause that kinda sounds like a great idea for a team up series. Wasp, however, is finally back in a series where she also gets to team up with the inheritor of her mantle, long lost daughter of Hank Pym, aka Ant-Man, Nadia. I also believe this is Janet Van Dyne's first ever solo series, which is wild to me, although even here she's sharing the series with Nadia, so there is that. Wasp not only has amazing covers from Tom Riley, but also is written by Out of This World writer Al Ewing with art by Kate Niemczyk. The only sad news here is that it's only a 4-part miniseries. And who knows, it could always lead to a longer running series, or it could get an extension and become a longer running series, so fingers crossed. Number 6, Venom. Venom is so wonderfully weird right now, and I mean that in like the best way possible. It's gotten really elevated in terms of the, I would say, existential crises that Eddie Brock and even Dylan Brock seem to be experiencing. If you are a Venom fan, if you have been following along with the King in Black event, the Absolute Carnage event, and Donny Cates' run on Venom, then this series really is for you. It continues along that path with, I would say, pretty great reverence, I think, for what has come before, but it also offers us a glimpse at something weirdly dark and different through the eyes of writers Al Ewing and Ram V, who both offer their own takes on the two characters that we have come to know as Venom, both Eddie and now his son, Dylan. Number 5, Immortal X-Men. Immortal X-Men is one of those series that you really you need to read it, especially if you want to be truly in touch with all the wild stuff that is happening with the X-Men right now. Truthfully, my first draft in terms of my picks for this list were pretty much all X books, probably no surprise to anybody. Like 70% of what my initial picks were for this list, prior to me tweaking it, were just straight up just X books. But after removing a few to give you a more balanced list in terms of recommendations, Immortal X-Men was one that I simply had to keep on here because, I mean, it's just that good. Now, this isn't even one of the books that I personally have been following along with issue to issue. It's not on my personal pull list. My partner is reading it, but has been keeping me informed, and I do pop in every now and then on an issue, and honestly, every time I do pop into it, I am in love with what I read. It is so good. Kieran Gillen and Lucas Wernick are both crushing it on Immortal X-Men, and these covers by Mark Brooks are jaw-dropping. Read it, or else miss out on all this mutant magic that's so good. Not actual magic, but you know, just like chef's kiss magic. Number 4, She-Hulk. What can I say? I made a promise to keep only one comic between Marvel and DC on my pull list for this year, as I attempt to focus more on collecting and supporting indie comics, part of a New Year's resolution of mine, and She-Hulk was almost the one that I simply had to keep. It was a really hard decision for me to not keep this comic on my pull list because I love it so much. It really feels like a return to the classic She-Hulk many of us first fell in love with in the comics. She's sassy, she's playful, she's fun-loving, hardworking, and she can also easily kick your butt. Like, this is my favorite version of She-Hulk. It's so good. She-Hulk came out swinging with writing by Rainbow Rowell and extremely consistent artwork from various talented artists throughout, and reminds me once more why I love the Jade Giantess. And even though I'm not reading it physically right now, you can bet I'm going to be continuing to read it digitally because it is super good and it deserves my support. And you should join me in reading in whichever format you prefer as well. Just trust me. Number 3, Fantastic Four. I mean, when they said that Ryan North was going to be doing FF, I had to start reading and collecting it. I love Ryan North, also, woo, other Canadian. Alas, because of my current commitment to really focusing on only collecting indie comics this year, as one of my New Year's resolutions as I was saying earlier, I'm not collecting this one physically anymore. But I'm still planning to read along digitally, and based on the tone I got in the first issue, I know this is going to be a great run. Although it does hurt me to not grab those stunning covers by Alex Ross off the shelves. And not just on the covers, the inside art by Ivan Coelho and design elements by Carlos Lau are also phenomenal. I think to really get a sense for this series, I'll simply share some of Ryan North's thoughts on the FF, which he writes about on the final page of his issue number 1. There were 4 guiding lights I had in mind for the Fantastic Four, and I put them at the top of the very first document I sent our fearless editor Tom Brevoort. They went a little something like this. Number 1, the Fantastic Four are fun. These are people who know they can help people and are here to do exactly that. No angst, having superpowers rules. Number 2, the Fantastic Four are adventurers. Exploring the unexplored is fun and gratifying. The unknown and the impossible are crazy interesting. Number 3, the Fantastic Four can do anything. If we want to recapture the feeling of the FF as they were in the 60s where anything could happen, we have to let what's come before be there to inspire stories but not limit them. Number 4, the Fantastic Four are accessible. This is a comic for people who've read every Fantastic Four appearance since 1961, but it's also one that welcomes people who have never read a single Fantastic Four comic before, or even a single Marvel comic. We have deep cut references to what's come before, but you won't feel left out if you don't know it, because this is a comic for everyone. Number 2, Sins of Sinister. Sins of Sinister is an event I have been eager to witness since almost the birth of Krakoa. Man, I'm gonna miss Krakoa when it's gone. Oof. Ever since Sinister was plotting on gathering all the samples of mutant DNA that he most wanted, I've been eager to see what master plan he has in store. While in Hellions, his Chimera was born, revealed, and sadly destroyed, now he's going even bigger with his ambitions. Not just trying to create something that is extremely powerful, but actually trying to harness others' powers in order to bend reality to his very will, which I gotta say is pretty wild. Sins of Sinister is an event with multiple tie-ins for you to check out and enjoy, but it also has its own self-titled issue as well, and a follow-up denouement series, Sins of Sinister, and a follow-up denouement issue, Sins of Sinister Dominion. The event is written by Kieran Gillen, who, as I already mentioned, is killing it on Immortal X-Men right now. Also, this event is massive when it comes to art, with so many artists involved, including David Baldion, Federico Vincentini, Joshua Cassara, and Stefano Caselli, among others. Number 1, Demon Wars. Demon Wars comes to us from writer and artist Peach Momoko with translation and contributions by Zach Davison. Peach Momoko is one of Marvel's Stormbreakers, younger artists and creatives that Marvel seeks to showcase and promote throughout their comics. For those of you who haven't checked it out, Demon Days was the previous series that Momoko did, which I honestly also fell in love with, and which precedes this. Also, Momoko's art is like some of the best art I think ever. It's so good. While I would recommend reading Demon Days prior to reading Demon Wars, I would also say that you could probably read Demon Wars without it if you really wanted to, and you would still enjoy and appreciate the story that Momoko and Davison are telling us here. The coolest thing about the Demon books, though, is that it is set in its own alternate universe of Peach's creation. To give us this beautiful and mysterious world, Momoko has taken inspiration from Japanese folklore and blended it together with the superpowered beings and stories, mutants especially, of Marvel's universe. While Demon Wars started in late 2022, it will likely wrap earlier this year in 2023. Although honestly, I want it to go on forever. Takes a while in between issues though, so you gotta be a bit patient, but it's worth it. There are so many more comics that I am excited about when it comes to Marvel and what they're putting out this year, so please do let us know in the comments if you want a part 2 or beyond. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, you stay nerdy, YouTube. Bye!